Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life.
They gathered here in Minneapolis today to celebrate the life of Prince, but also to try to make sense of his mysterious and untimely death. Here at Paisley Park, where Prince both lived and worked, they came to honor a native son who became a global pop icon.
How did you feel when you heard the news today?
Devastated.
It was 9:43 Central Time Thursday morning when sheriff's deputies found the music legend unresponsive inside of an elevator that led to his living quarters. It was sudden, but not entirely shocking. While just last month, Prince appeared the picture of health, showing up courtside at this Golden State Warriors game, April brought the first signs of trouble. At the Fox Theater in Atlanta on April 7th, organizers canceled 2 concert appearances, saying the entertainer was battling the flu. But just last Thursday, Prince was back in Atlanta to make up for those missed shows. By all accounts, he gave his usual strong performance.
He left everything on the stage. He gave us his all. He did around 4 encores.
Just hours after the show, however, as Prince's private jet was winging its way home to Minneapolis, a medical crisis. The plane was forced to make an emergency landing at 1:30 in the morning in Moline, Illinois. An unresponsive person aboard.
Moline, jet speed 990 down 127.
The celebrity gossip site TMZ broke the story.
They took him to the hospital, and after doctors looked at him, they said, look, you're going to have to stay for 24 hours.
Curiously, TMZ's Harvey Levin says because no private room was available, Prince left the hospital after just 3 hours and flew home.
The reps for Prince told us it was because of the flu. That never made sense to us because with the flu, you tough it out for 48 minutes so you can get home and you're comfortable rather than in some strange city.
However, the next day after returning to Minneapolis, Prince tweeted out this flyer announcing a dance party that very night at Paisley Park to give thanks for the good weather and for all the love and support. Sharon Jackson, who works for the local paper, the Star Tribune, attended the event, not as a reporter, she says, but as a fan.
He seemed great. He seemed totally fine, energetic.
It just strikes me that what you're describing does not sound like a man on death's door.
I certainly did not get that impression when I was there. He spoke for a couple more minutes and he said, wait a few days before you waste any prayers.
After the show, Prince tweeted out this picture of the crowd and a message, thanks everybody for your extra time. On Wednesday night, outside this Walgreens drugstore near his home, Prince was seen in this photo that TMZ says it obtained, perhaps the last image of him alive. Just hours later, on Thursday morning, Prince was found dead at his home. As his body was released to his family today by the medical examiner, we learned that the riddle of what caused his sudden death almost certainly won't be solved until we get back the results of that autopsy, and that could take weeks.
We are going to leave no stone unturned with this and make sure that that the public knows what happened.
But the sheriff said over and over in his news conference late today that we should not expect any quick answers in this case. Interestingly, he and the other local officials volunteered that they too are Prince fans, which is part of why they're treating this case so carefully. As the sheriff told the gathered reporters, to you, Prince Rogers Nelson was a celebrity. To us, he was a community member and good neighbor. Elizabeth, back to you.
A beloved community member. Thanks so much, Dan. An early manager of Prince once said that the thing Prince feared most was being normal. No worries there. He wrote his first song when he was just 7 years old, and it was called Funk Machine.
We've got some strange and troubling new information that's coming in today about those days that led up to the death of the artist Prince and the incident that forced his plane to make that emergency landing just days before that death. While not naming names, the Quad Cities Airport in Moline, Illinois has confirmed that there was an unconscious person on board a private jet in the early morning hours of April 16th. That's just 5 days before Prince died. Ryan Young joins me live now outside of Prince's Paisley Park studios in Chanhassen, Minnesota, and CNN legal analyst Paul Callan is here to talk about the estate and where it all stands now. Ryan, if I can start with you just on the developments that we're learning and the mystery that still needs to be solved. We still don't know why that 57-year-old died.
No, and that's the big question that everyone has. Even here at the memorial site, they want to know why Prince died. We know the 5 days before there was this emergency landing. We do know he canceled those concerts in Atlanta due to flu-like symptoms, according to his publicist at the time. But we did not know about the emergency in terms of how fast and how that plane had to get down to the ground. We're hearing the new information and the new audio that was just released today.
What's the nature of the emergency? What's the nature of the
An unresponsive passenger. Was it a male or female passenger?
Hey there.
Male passenger.
And Ashley, I also want to make a point here. After that emergency landing, we do believe there was some medical aid rendered, but we've talked to people in this community who saw Prince on that same day. In fact, he went to a record store and talked to people that he always talked about, tweeting about being there, and then held a party here at Paisley Park that night. So it's unbelievable that after that situation, he was able to have then a party here at his place where people said he showed up for about 5 or 10 minutes, played audio from that Atlanta recording, and then said, "Don't worry, you don't have to pray for me." So just some astonishing new details in terms of putting the timeline together, even though as we wait for the autopsy results to come out.
There's a discussion, and a number of sources have said that there is a vault with unreleased material, and also there's future sales potentially. What happens in that case?
It depends on whether there's a will or not. If he's left a will, then the directions will be in that document as to what is to happen with the music. But you know, in his former audio engineer, Tom Garneau, said when he left in 1996, after working there from '89, there were about 50 albums of unreleased music, and that was 20 years ago. So one can only speculate as to what the value might be of all that unreleased music.
Yeah, he was very prolific. So what happens to the rights of the music that already we know and love?
Under Minnesota law, reportedly, if he dies without a will, his sister would be in control, his sole surviving family member. His parents are deceased. He had no living children at the time of his death. But for someone who was so meticulous about his finances, controlling the copyright and controlling his image and his songs, for someone who, for example, you can't find Prince's music on Spotify or a lot of other music streaming services. It's hard to find any of his music on YouTube because he was so controlling of that image, of that music. It really seems unlikely that he would not have left specific directions over, for example, what happens to the control of a song like Purple Rain.
Prince.
So, and as you alluded to it, I mean, he recently won back control of his catalogue. He owned the masters. I mean, that was rare for a musician, wasn't it?
Very rare, and he was very much a pioneer of that. Between 1996 and 2004, he didn't have that control. He got it back, and, you know, it was very important to him. So one would imagine that he would have left very specific instructions on what to do with his music after he's gone. Not just the music that's released, but also what's in those vaults.
The superstar who kept so much of his life in private, shielded from the public, apparently died much the same way, alone, in what investigators are calling an unwitnessed death. Tonight, as investigators are working to piece together the singer's final hours, there are new questions about his final days. 6 days before Prince's death, a private jet believed to have the singer on board made an emergency landing at the Quad Cities Airport in Moline, Illinois. CNN has obtained an audio recording between two controllers and the pilot.
What's the nature of the emergency? What's the nature of the
An unresponsive passenger. Jet speed 990, was it a male or female passenger?
Hey there.
Male passenger.
Prince was rushed to the hospital after an emergency landing at that airport the same day.
I would want to know who was on the plane, what happened on the plane, what did they see, what did they say, and then when he was taken to the hospital, what happened there? What did the doctors say?
Prince was later released from the hospital and returned to his home in Minnesota. Just before that incident, Prince had performed in Atlanta. He was seen carrying a cane. The pop star had suffered from a bad hip. Key questions now center around whether Prince had been treated for pain.
Are you able to confirm whether Prince was taking any medication at the time of his death?
I am not able to confirm that at this time at all.
Friends say if drugs were involved in his death, it would be especially surprising. The 57-year-old was known for his healthy lifestyle. He was a vegan and was not known for partying or drug use.